Hi there and welcome. This is a new series of videos that I'm going to try out just for giggles really. I've got 12 subscribers and I'm chuffed to death. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the alphabet with Modular. And we're going to start with A. A is going to be for analog and for attenuate. I'm not sure how useful this will be for people who kind of been in modular or analog synthesizers for a while. But hopefully if people are a bit new then it'll be useful. One of the great questions is analog or digital. These days you can have both. This is a digital module, this is an analog module. So you can get both and you can hybrid your system, which is fantastic. Probably quite a while ago, people used to say that analog was a warmer sound and things like that. But if I take the sine wave from an analog oscillator and I'll take a sine wave from a digital oscillator, you should be able to hear the difference. So this is the analog one. And this is the digital one. I haven't particularly tuned them, which I apologise for. So there you go. There is a slight difference in sound. Not masses, but there is a bit of a difference. So there's lots of analog modules and there's lots of digital modules, and these days it really doesn't matter. I've got a mixture of both in this case, analog and digital. But what I really wanted to do today was look at attenuators and particularly how you can use them to make your sound nicer, basically. Because without them, it's horrible, or it can be. So what we're going to do is we'll take volt per octave of this oscillator, and we'll plug that into a low frequency oscillator. So what we'll get is a rising and a falling from that, and it will be quite a racket. So I might need to turn it down just a fraction. And we'll take the sine wave because that's the gentler one, I think. So you can straight away hear it's extremely painful. And it's going all the way from the very, very bottom, almost out of audio range, all the way to the top. Turn it down a bit. So it's a huge range of motion there. And we probably don't want quite as much as that. So what we'll do this time is we'll put it into an attenuator. Now this attenuator, built this, quite a long time ago now. And it is a buffered attenuator. So it does have a little buffer in there that means it keeps the signal correct and the same. So now when I put voltage per octave in, we'll see what we get. So at the moment, we're still getting the full range, but I can turn it down, and we should get less. There we go, much less. Doesn't go up as high, and we could bring it down even more. And that's probably the easiest way to show what attenuation can do. It just kind of squishes everything down, squishes the signal down, so it keeps it within a range. This is working on negative at the moment. This one can invert the signal. If I go the other way, it'll change it, it'll go up. And it just narrows that whole range. And that's really, really useful. Maybe not for an oscillator on the voltage per octave input, but it can be useful in other ways. So there we go. If I take that out, and instead of that we'll put it into this CV in on this oscillator, and we'll go to a square wave. We should be able to use it to pulse width modulate. So that's attenuated. I could boost that up and get more signal if I wanted to. And we can speed it up using the LFO. And there we go. One of the other really cool uses for it is to use it with filters. So we'll take the same sine wave, but this time we'll put it into a filter. So this filter's got its own attenuator. So each one of these little dials is its own attenuator, which is really, really helpful. It helps if you put the audio in the right place. I'll have. There we go. And then we'll take the output. And we should hear something, and we hear nothing. Oh, I turned it down. So that is an attenuator working on volume. That's the filter opening and closing. And one of the probably best examples of this, if we take a sample and hold, which is this module here, and we plug it into here, again, this has got its own attenuators. So here, if I turn that up, I'll turn the slew down, you get that classic kind of random filter opening and closing. So that's now on full. Whereas if I attenuate it down, it's a bit more interesting. So the full signal, you're only getting a few kind of blips and blops. Attenuate it down, and it's a much better sound. Find the sweet spot on the filter, turn the resonance up. And there you go. So you can use attenuators to control a voltage and bring it back into line and make it do what you want it to do rather than going mad. There's loads and loads of examples of when you need to attenuate. Quantizers are one. So if you want note sound, musical scales, using a quantizer, very often you need to attenuate the signal into it. We'll have a go at that in a minute, but I'll probably stop the video because I can never remember quite where my quantizers are. So I might stop the video and then have a go at a quantizer for you. So what we've got going on now is a trigger, which is being triggered by this free modular clock, going into Ornament and Crimes, which is on dual quantizer mode, but I'm only using one of the quantizers. And then we've got an attenuated LFO, low frequency oscillator, which is rising and falling. And then that attenuated signal is going back into the CV input on Ornament and Crimes. So what we get is an attenuated signal. If we turn that attenuation up, that increases the range of notes that we're going to get. You can hear it rising and falling in line with the low frequency oscillator. If we didn't attenuate it, we'd get too big a range. So at either end of that range, we're going to get very, very high notes and very, very low notes. So unattenuated with the original signal, it's a right racket. Whereas we can just narrow it down, it's a lot nicer. Instead of that, we could take the sample and hold, I guess. So let's try that. Instead of that, we'll have the sample and hold. faster and you get your... We can clock the sampling hold as well, actually. Let's do that. You get your classic beep boops. And the unattenuated signal is really horrible to listen to. Go negative as well. And there you go. That's attenuators. I hope you have a great Christmas and New Year. Take care of yourself and your families. Peace be with you. Bye.